right, welcome to Life Change Transformation. We're in season two. This is going to be episode number 14. And the question we have for you is, would you love to unlock your best summer ever? We're going to talk a bit about that today, what that looks like, how we can really pre-pave something that's amazing come the summer months, because we know how precious that time can be, at least in Alberta. You know how special that is for us. Yeah,
Absolutely.
as always, I'm here with Maeve Langford, all the way from Cork, Ireland, transformational life coach, amazing person, amazing mentor, knows so much about transformation and the lifestyle and just the education and what she's doing over there and how she's creating a trail of amazing people in her wake is really awesome. I love having her here. I love her expertise. It's great. I couldn't do this without her because she is the smartest one out of the two of us for sure. And of course, myself as Gary Benoit. I'm an ex-police officer, spent 25 years doing that. I wrote a book called A Call for Service. I'm an author, speaker, and licensed in the financial services industry in Alberta and Saskatchewan and a few other provinces in Canada. So it's great to be here with you guys. As mentioned, we're going to talk about unlocking this next thing we call summer. It's coming up here. So what seeds are we planting? What are we doing to create that? So really, I think I'm thinking about intention. What is the intention for the summer months to coming? What does it look like for you? You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I just think it's such a great idea to be asking that now. We're just kind of at the end of March and really allowing yourself to lean in. So some of you listening, you might be like, why are they even asking this? I booked my summer last summer, and it's
Mhm.
all down pat. I was
Mhm.
never that person, I have to say. I was the person who'd get to July and we'd be like, we need to take 2 weeks holidays. And I'd be like, well, there aren't 2 weeks available in my diary at the
Mhm.
moment. That was the
Mhm.
old me, Gary, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so now I am much more intentional and it really does come down to intention, really. And having asked yourself that question, well, what would we love this year? And paying attention, maybe thinking about old holidays, past holidays that you've had and taking the feedback. I'm sure for all of us here on the call today or the listening back on the podcast, it's like we've all had holidays. It's like, I do not want to repeat that. I never want to have that experience again. And there's some holidays that were amazing and special in some way. And yes, I mean, there's no going back to that
Mhm.
experience, but definitely you can create something like that again. So I think I would start with kind of saying to everybody today is like, well, what would you love? Paying attention. It's like longings and discontents, or what went well in the past and
Yeah.
what would you love to replicate,
Yeah.
and what do you not want to ever do again?
Right. Excuse me. I was thinking about, I know because March seems like it's early. Like March is,
On one level,
it's a
yes.
little bit early,
Yeah.
but like honestly, when you really consider it, when I look back, like I mean, my lifestyle now, where I'm at now, when it comes to our family and kids, like of course, my son Aiden, who's graduated high school, he's already, he's an adult. He's going on to do different, bigger and better things. So our life is a little bit different now because we only have the one, and there's no more like schooling that that finishes in June. But I do remember like coming toward into March and the end of March, and like the last few months, like you have that April, you have Easter break and stuff, but ultimately, by the end of April, things are fast. May and June go by really, really fast, and those 2 months, like we can almost wish away that time sometimes. Like sometimes we
Yeah.
can like wish away time. And when we're looking at those months ahead, right away we have thoughts about them. Like
Mhm.
I look back and think, oh my God, it's only 2 months, right? It's only 2 months. How are we gonna do what we want to do? It's only 2 months. He only has 2 months off. Like those are the kind of the comments that I would make to myself. And I recognize that now that I was literally just I was compressing that time even more because of the fact I was commenting to myself that how little time I had.
Mm.
Right. I was
Mm.
focused on the little time, right? I was focused on the fact that I didn't, I had, instead of having, I had full 2 months to really plan and be intentional and have some amazing experiences. Even though I worked a lot of the summertime and I mean, I was lucky back in my career. I worked 4 days on, 4 days off. I was a shift worker.
Mm.
And I consider that to be a fortune because I look at people that work Monday to Friday and only have the weekend off. I think that really does. change your time commitment, right? So
Mm.
for me, I had 4 days on, 4 days off. So I would really, if I really was intentional with my summertime, I could really plan those 4 days to the fullest and utilize the time we had available to us.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes I just wished it away because I was like, oh, all I could shine my flashlight on, all I could really expose was the fact that we had so little time because summer was
Yeah.
so short, right?
Well, and I'm smiling at you saying that because I think many parents in Ireland, right, our kids, well, in primary school, they just have about the 2 months, but in secondary school, they have 3 months off in the summer.
Oh, nice.
So your average parent, I have to say, and well, I think anyway, and I suppose we assume they're like ourselves, but a lot of conversation in Ireland is like, what on earth are we going to do to entertain our kids for 3 months, right?
Okay.
So again, we're like wherever you are on the spectrum of it's so little time and how can I take advantage of it to you're like, well, how on earth am I going to fill the time? It comes back to being intentional, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And what would you love? What would you love to create? And this is the same as we talk about, in all the four domains, and having a vision broadly for your life. It's just like, what would you love? And leaning into that.
Yeah.
And most people, we look at our bank account to say, what kind of holiday am I allowed to have this year? Or we look to our employer to say, what kind of summer am I going to have based on what I'll be given in terms of annual leave. And it's not about the conditions. It's
No.
not about the conditions. And we've probably all created holidays and experiences and found money and managed to scrape the time together to, have that one-off experience for a family wedding, or, there was something that caused you to really push for the result and you got it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that shows us that if you can get it when there's a family wedding, or, because I don't know, somebody's the other side of the world, and you really want to get there while they're there,
Yeah.
and you push for that and you get it. Well, if you can get it on those occasions, you can get it in 2025,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So
You
what
know,
would you love?
absolutely. Like, I think I know that our Canadian summers, at least Alberta summers, they are not super long. Of course, they do tend to. It's like there's
Condensed.
a handful of months to where we actually have summer, and I just, uh, I think so we think about vacation. I'm just gonna my thought goes to, okay, we look at a vacation. We actually look at the 2 weeks or the 7, 10 days or whatever you're taking for your annual family vacation or your annual leave or whatever that looks like. For us, if I took 4 days off, I would get just about 12 days. So we would plan around those 12 days potentially, or maybe a little bit longer, depending if I had extra days off if in the summertime. Because for us, our annual leave was restricted because you could only have X number of people off during the time because it was
Sure.
summertime, it was busy time of year in policing. So we have lots of restrictions. But we took a lot of time to plan those, let's say 10 days. Like we planned
Hmm.
it. Colette and I would, my wife and I would sit down, we would just literally plan and plan and plan. How about if we took that same level of planning for the small 10-day period and do it for the entire month? And
The
what if you
whole
did
summer.
that for the whole summer?
Yeah.
What could
Yeah.
you, if you took the intention to take that, okay, I'm going to plan the 2 months just like I would my 7 to 10 day vacation. What does that look like for you? And how much more could you glean out of that summer if you did it
Yeah.
that way?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure it would be a lot more than what if you just went by default and went on a whim,
Yeah.
right? As
Yeah.
oftentimes we do that, right? We talk about our conditions. You go to look at the conditions. Well, the conditions are I don't have a lot of time. I feel like there's time constraints. I don't have the days off, right? There's commitments, blah blah blah. But if we were intentional about the vision, right, instead of going to the
Yeah.
conditions and just living those days by default, because when I look back on it and I really think about it, and I think, man, there's probably at least 15 or 16 days that I just squandered away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? In the summertime, in those 2 months, for sure. Like, it'd be half a month I would have just squandered
Yeah.
away because we didn't really have a plan. And we've
Yeah.
said it before, the calendar at the time will just get filled with stuff anyway.
Yes. Yes.
Whether we're
Yeah.
intentional with filling it or not, it's just going to get filled. And so how much did I waste? Right. And I think, man,
Yeah.
if I wish you look back and if I could have just done that differently, how much better could it have been?
Yeah.
right?
And I often think that, for where I live in Ireland, and I know it's very different for you guys, but where I live, it like an hour's drive in any direction would get me to a beach, right? Which
That's
on one
fantastic.
level, it doesn't always feel, it feels like that's too far if you just want to go for a quick swim. But at the same time, it's such a blessing, like to be able
Yeah,
to just drive several options in any direction. And I often think about that, like with my kids, just to say, I could just finish work at 3, 4, 5. I'd be probably finished anyway. But even to just finish an hour early, a couple of days during the summer, and we could be at the beach in an hour, have a lovely swim, either, make a little barbecue
yeah,
on the beach, or, it doesn't have to be expensive. But again, those outings can add a huge amount to your experience of the summer. And yet,
absolutely.
exactly like you say, if I don't plan for that, it just won't happen.
Right.
It just won't happen.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and even if it's just a barbecue in your own yard, right? Or lighting, always talk about, I love the little outdoor fires and things. Like just even to say, okay, I'm just gonna make the time and make a plan to light that fire in the garden
yeah.
or
That's
in
fantastic.
the courtyard, and like, yeah, and
Yeah,
and it enhances the experience
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
100%.
And oftentimes we pre-pave too, right? Like ahead of time. Like we look at the summer, and sometimes there's events or there's things going on or not going on, or you kind of pre-pave this humdrum kind of an idea, right? So, we talk about planting those seeds and looking at the ideas now. So instead of pre-paving
Rain.
whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
who knows, right? Uh, yeah, you can't control the weather, but I mean, hey, I mean, like for us, like if we look at it, we don't get a lot of rain really in the summer anyway. It's not something that really happens. We're not close to a coast, like we're in kind of landlocked, right?
Hmm.
But when it comes to weather and stuff, you just plan things anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it's just something that you can get into the habit of doing, and not instead of pre-paving for. I mean, maybe it is something in Ireland where you look forward to the summertime, but you're like, oh my goodness, how much rain's going to come.
Yeah,
Like maybe
exactly.
that's the thought, right? Oh my god, well, I can't plan that because it's probably going to rain that day or whatever, right? Like
Exactly.
there could be that thought process as well happening. So what are
Yeah.
you pre-paving ahead of time that you can't even, it's out of your control anyway?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? We can create the vision, and we talk about that here a lot. So this is like a mini vision for my summer holiday, or, for the whole of the summer period. And oftentimes people will say to me, I see this in my work a lot, and they're like, I know my vision, Maeve, right? And it's just not happening. And
Mm,
I mean, I feel the pain, right? And I also know that oftentimes we have the vision, right? But we're not pouring our energy and our attention into the vision. We're not coming from the vision, as my great mentor Mary Morrissey would say. We're locked in the conditions, or we're in the memory of, well, it rained all last summer, or, it, for you it mightn't be to do with the weather, but like, oh, that family member was just irritating all the
mhm.
time that we were there, or that, and I'm not speaking to your family per
No,
se,
no.
I'm just making examples, right? But like it's like what that pre-paving phrase that we use, it's like, am I, anticipating the vision, or am I anticipating all the problems that might happen, or that, that past memories suggest, are likely?
Right.
And that's why the vision isn't happening, right? Because my energy and my attention is on the problem, the condition, the past,
Mm.
experience that I want to avoid. But by giving it all my energy and my attention, I'm just
Yeah.
inviting more of the same.
I giggle. I'm only giggling because I was, as you were talking, I had a thought. I remember one summer, um, we had a really like the summer prior to this summer that was coming up. We had a bad. The mosquitoes were horrible. They were everywhere, and
Sure.
and and I just remembered I was thinking to myself, oh man, summer's coming. I'm going to have to deal with those darn mosquitoes again. It's going to be absolutely horrible. And like, and the funny thing was is that when I really look at the mosquitoes weren't that bad that year, but ultimately they can be depending on how much rain and how much water we
Sure.
had and standing water from the snow melt and the various other reasons outside of my control. But what a way to waste time. Like I think it's I we so quickly go to that. Oh. What about that?
Yeah.
Or oh, the wasps are bad. That's that in that summer, and that wasn't very fun. Or who knows, right? Like there's
Yeah.
just things that come up that sit in our mind for some reason, and that's where our minds go to.
Yeah.
All of I just giggle because we do it, and it's I can go back to that in an instant. You talk about it, I can go back to those moments in an instant.
Yeah.
And it's one, it's great awareness for everybody to have that awareness of where your mind goes when that time comes.
Yeah.
But how often we do that, and not sometimes if we're not aware of it, what are like once again now we're putting it out there that we're shining our light on
Yeah.
those things that right instead of shining the light on the vision and the idea that yes, okay, I understand that everybody has this vision, and sometimes people go, well, I don't have the results. I don't. I mean, how many times have you heard that as a coach, right? Well, my results aren't here. I don't see the results. Something that
Yes.
stuck with me, right? I'm sure you hear it way more than I do because I don't coach people one on one like you do. But the idea that the absence of the evidence is not evidence of absence, right? And that's saying it took me a little while to really grasp what it meant,
Yeah.
right? But truly, that's the case. If you can just come back to that place where just because you don't see the result right in your hand in that moment doesn't mean that you haven't already created the environment for that result to show up.
Exactly. Exactly. The fact that you have a vision for it,
Mm-hmm.
it is already created, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And now we just have to bring it from meta into physical form.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we do that, I mean, the language, you might add your own bit to this in a minute, Gary, but like the way we do that is through repetition of engagement with the idea.
Correct.
And having a mindset that says, this year can be different, right?
Right.
What if there are no mosquitoes, or what
Mm-hmm.
if they're there, but I'm just not the one who's being bitten, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and we create a different thought pattern about all of it. And then we're showing up. So like who if that's my vision, who do I need to be in order to be in alignment with that vision? So
Yep.
I'm more upbeat, or I'm assuming it's going to go better this time, or I'm taking practical steps to have the, I don't know, anti-mosquito spray, or
Mm-hmm.
to just throw in the wellies in case it's going to bucket rain, and we need to wrap up and
Correct.
have protection. But
Right.
it's in us, right? To That's our work, not just to have the original idea, but then to pour energy into that idea with our thoughts, with our attention, with our
Yes.
time, with our energy, and that's what solidifies it into form.
Correct. And like I think that that's such a great thing is that we have the opportunity to change how we feel and think and see that moment
Yeah,
regardless. Like and so like going into the summer, going into those months where the kids are going to be out of school and you have these opportunities in front of you. And I see to build relationships, have those memories. Maybe they are just that fire in the backyard, or maybe it is just a drive to the beach for an hour and a
yeah,
barbecue, or maybe I don't know whatever they do. If it's golfing, if it's you know, I would love to get over to Ireland and
that's
go on a
yeah,
few golf courses. That'd be fantastic,
yeah,
right? So like the
yeah,
idea that you can get out on these and then do these things, or maybe it's just having a coffee on a patio somewhere, or maybe it's whatever that is for you. If
yeah,
you just take advantage of the idea and hold it with an open hand too, right? Understand that if you put it in the calendar on a set of days off and it's downpouring buckets, chances are you're not going to go sit on the patio and have that coffee. But could you go to the shop and sit inside and have that coffee?
yeah. You don't have to cancel
Absolutely.
the
You don't
whole
have to
thing.
cancel the whole exactly, right? You don't have to like,
Yeah,
but like the idea that you can hold that and just have that idea that I'd love to have this connection with this because really it's not about the coffee.
no,
It's the time with whoever you're spending it with or the time with yourself potentially.
yeah, yeah,
Right. So it's
absolutely,
more than so seeing it from a different level, right? Seeing it from the perspective
yeah.
of that it's, I'm doing this for these other reasons, not just about the coffee. It's not just about the whatever.
Or the venue or
Or the
whatever.
venue,
Yeah,
right? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share the idea today about scaffolding images,
Mm.
right? I'm sure we've mentioned them before, but it kind of fits a lot with the holiday because we were all taking photographs on holidays, and we often have a photograph of a moment that really captures that holiday for us and the essence of all of it. I know we had a family holiday in the States a few years back, and there's this lineup of us, you know, the five of us and our friends on this bridge. Something Falls was the name of the place. It often comes up in movies as well. But we're on this bridge anyway. And it's beautiful summer's day and beautiful photograph. And for me, that like that's it. That captured that entire holiday, just the joy of the whole experience. And the scaffolding image is like if you had the vision, like you, so inviting all of you listening today to create a vision for the summer that you would love. And then a scaffolding image would just be capturing kind of the essence of that holiday. That so it might be like everybody around a campfire, or it might be, you know, kayaking. These are things that I like, right? Or it might be, I don't know, you might be on that 5-star cruise ship, and you're all sat around the table and the captain has come and stood there and click photograph. Or it might be, I don't know, 5-star hotel, or it might be glamping on the side of a cliff, you know, whatever it is. But for you, like there's an image within that that's just like click. It's like a snapshot of that's a moment that captures the energy and the outcome that kind of expresses the whole thing for you. And it's just a place for the mind to go, an anchor for the mind when you're thinking about the summer and you know you've just heard a long-term forecast for rain, or you know you've just had a frustrating phone call with somebody who's like not making it easy for it all to fall into place, and very quick to, you know, feel constricted with that. And it's just like, no, not going there. This is the image. This is the summer. This is the
Hmm.
vision.
Hmm.
And it just helps us to kind of manage that shift from where we are in the moment and in the condition to back to that end result realized, and
Yeah,
the energy and the feeling that goes with that.
for sure. You know, when we use images, and I think it's key to understand is the reason why we want pictures is because we think in pictures,
The mind thinks in pictures.
right? If
Yeah.
I said, look at that red door, you don't see the word door in red. You see a picture, or you see a door, like an actual door in a frame, and it's painted red. That's what you're going to see in your mind when I say, look at a red door, you know. Or if I described, you know, a vehicle, some type of vehicle, right? You're not going to look and see the word, like for a Chevy Silverado was a pickup truck here in Canada, right? You're not going to see the word Silverado. You're going to see the actual pickup truck in your mind, right? Because we see it in
Sure.
images, right? And so that's
Yeah.
great. The scaffolding images really are a powerful way for us to attach ourselves to the vision, to that what that looks like. Because if we and then in an absence of that, if we just think about it logically from the idea of it, it doesn't really hold the same energy as much because
Yeah.
we can't go there as quickly because we have right
Yeah.
we can't quite get there
Exactly.
as quickly. Whereas in a picture, it's like right away, right? I bet you
Yeah.
if I said red door, everybody has red door in their brain. Or if I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, you have it in your head.
Exactly.
If I say a gray elephant, you're gonna have a gray elephant in your picture in your mind, right? Like it's gonna come up and
Yes.
you're gonna see that picture of an elephant in your mind. And so that's why scaffolding images are really, really a great tool for that. So if you know when you pictured, if you're sitting around a campfire, I know exactly in my brain. For me, I know what it looks like. I see the red glow of the flame. I see some lawn chairs. I see,
Yeah.
right. I have that in my brain. I know what that looks like. I can
Yeah.
see it very clearly.
Yeah.
And so whatever that is for you as you're listening and you're looking at your summer, for me, it's a golf course. It's the green of the golf course and the tee off box and the smell of the cut grass and I can
Yeah.
see the flag and I can stand there and I can hear the birds. I can see it in my pit. I can see it in my mind. That's going to be summertime, right? That's going to be
Yeah.
the idea of summer for me is that idea. And so, and I can tell you who's around. I can see my son. I can see my wife. I can see people that are going to be golfing with us in around that same circle, which is really cool because that's now become my scaffolding image for what that looks like for some of the days in the summertime,
Exactly.
right?
And what's really important about that as well is, like, as you said, the mind thinks in images, but it also doesn't know whether it's real or not, right?
100%, 100%.
So as soon as we go, as we're feeding the mind with that image, it goes to work with it as if it's already happening. And the reticular activating system in the brain, it starts to think, okay, Maeve or Gary, are you listening today? That's what they're doing this summer. And it starts to look for proof of that. It starts
Hmm.
to look for opportunities and resources and people and connections that will all support that outcome.
Right.
So, and again, it's the same, right? Wherever we're putting our attention, if my attention is on I can't afford it, then it's looking for the reticular activating system is looking for proof of that. So
Correct.
you want to give it stuff to work with that you actually want to experience, and then let it do its own thing that is going to be serving the outcome that you'd love, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that that's such a cool thing to bring up here too. Like the idea that, you're the images and you know, when you make a decision for something. So if you decide today, if you said, okay, today I'm going to decide for this type of summer, you decided, you 100% decide, not just think, say, well, I think I'll do this. I'm going to decide for this. This is my summer. This is what it's going to
Outcome.
be like that. And then you make that decision right away, and you've got these images. You take the scaffolding images. I'm going to decide for a couple of golf games, and you start putting it on almost like a mini vision board in your mind as what that looks like for the summer and how many times you're going to be having your barbecues and stuff like that. And you have that picture that you can come back to in a second. Right away, the universe starts to conspire to create the results to make that happen.
Yes.
Right. So everything we've talked about when it comes to living life and being transformative in life, and we've talked about the power of decision. We've talked about those things in previous episodes. Go back and visit those ones if you need a refresher. But truthfully, you start deciding for something, and then you have an image, and then ultimately it it starts to create those results. It starts to your mind starts to find the things to show up that will
Yeah.
then, right, as long as you're aware that that's coming to you in that way,
Yeah.
right.
And then I think the big thing is like if you've made you've thought about the holiday or the whole summer that you want to have, and you've made a decision, yeah, that's how I'm going to be, then it's like what are the steps you can take
Mhm.
that are going to move you in that direction. And even if the money isn't available to you at the moment, you could block out those dates in your diary, right? You could write to family and friends and say we want to have a family barbecue on this date, and save the date, right? And start being that person and taking the steps in that direction. And it's like, again, coming from meta into form, each of those little steps is like, bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it
Mhm.
down into this 3D reality where it becomes our lived experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
So,
and we want to unlock the best summer ever. That's the idea of this episode, is to really understand that we can unlock this truly. And we talked in the last episode, the previous one, just to this one, we talk about the balance side of things, right? The equinox,
mhm.
the idea of being more balanced. Well, this could add to your ability to live into that idea of harmony, the idea of
Yeah,
balance, right?
yeah,
Because ultimately, as you consider what that looks like, um, really it could be a part of your structure, part of the, okay, I've got this much work and this much quality time and this much my own, you can sort of play around with that a little bit and utilize this as you pre-pave the summertime.
yeah,
It can show up and sometimes can be feel very chaotic and feel very busy and feel very time constrained, um because the kids are doing whatever, and for us here, like I say, that the time of the months are like it feels like they've shortened, although the months haven't shortened. It just feels that way because they weren't you weren't planning or intentional with all the opportunity that
yeah.
was in front of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and as you've just been saying that, it kind of triggered in me. I know I've had this experience myself, and I often hear people saying, I had an amazing 2 weeks off, but man, am I paying for it now that I'm back at work, or
Heard
that
that
it
too.
is just
Yep.
so hectic just to be able to wrap it up and finish up before you go. So again, be intentional for that side of things as well. That no, I'm going to go into the holidays feeling organized, feeling on top of it, feeling like I've wrapped things up well at work, and, maybe being intentional about the segue back into the workplace. And, how could I do that in such a way that, maybe the first day back, I don't plan any meetings, and I'm just going to give myself a bit of time to deal with emails, or, to connect with my team, or, to catch up on, what was left undone. So really, like, there's no compromise. Like, you want to build a vision for a summer that isn't about compromises, and that isn't about, that I have to pay for it in some way that feels on I don't know, unattractive or unpreferred, or even that, like, oh, I can have a great holiday, but it's going to cost me a fortune, and then I'm in debt for the rest of the year. No, build your intention and your vision to have a great holiday within your resources, or that you'll get great value for whatever holidays or flights that you book, and to be really intentional. We keep coming back to this word about being intentional and build the
Mhm.
vision. And even maybe as we were saying some of these things, you didn't realize you thought like that, that you didn't realize you assumed it had to be crazy before you went on holidays, or that it put
Yeah.
you into debt,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
that you paid for it when you returned, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And just catch that, because now that you've realized, oh my gosh, I was having that thought, which is causing me to have that experience. Then, if I don't want that experience, it starts with changing the thought,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
setting that vision, setting that intention for it to be
Yeah.
different.
Awesome. So as we finish up today, what I would love to just impress upon people that you can do this intentionally. You can create this idea of an amazing summer. Um, I think the scaffolding image is probably the biggest one that I would love for people to kind of take a look at that. And say, what does that look like? And really, truly look like in your mind? How does it feel? Try it on. I mean, yes, it's maybe a little bit early to be planning for the summer, but I think that if we're intentional with all of our lifestyle and with how we plan a whole year out, right? Like we look at 12 months and we plan the entire year and we put stuff in the calendar, regardless of knowing how we're going to get some of these things done. What if you
Mhm.
did that just for the summertime? What if that was really, really, really your intention for this summer? And could you unlock that best summer ever?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And yeah, I think what I would say for all of us listening and participating here today is like, just to be open to, and curious about what would be different. I was saying to you, Gary, like, our three kids are adults now, and they're all doing different study, and they all have jobs and commitments. And, it's kind of, it doesn't really fit us anymore to necessarily do that five of us together on a beach someplace, trying to schedule all of us. And I'm not sure we all want it anymore.
Mm.
The kids are kind of like, like, we're good. So there's, for Andrew and I, it's been kind of like, we still want time with them,
Yeah.
right? But maybe it's not like a condensed week, which is probably maybe a bit too much anyway. And kind of exploring, well, maybe we'll do a weekend in a really nice hotel and have that experience together. Or maybe we'll go to a couple of concerts and put the money and the time into that. Or, maybe we'll just go, like, splash out in a really, meal and a venue that we would never normally go to. So
Right.
for us, it's kind of like, revisiting what does a great summer even look like for us
Right.
anymore, right?
Right. Yeah.
And getting the boys involved with that as well.
That's
So
fantastic.
so yeah, be curious. What
For
would you
sure.
love?
All right. Anything? So we talked a bit last time. We sort of talked about the cards and stuff that's coming. The card deck.
Card deck is here. Yes, I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, available. We'll put a link into the video or the podcast info where people
Yeah.
can reach out, or just message me. And we will have a radical wellbeing program coming up shortly as well. So we'll
Yeah.
be getting the details out to people, and I'd absolutely love to have you join me if you want to. Radical wellbeing as part of your summer experience. This would definitely be a great support for that, and being
Fantastic.
intentional around that.
Yeah. Right on. As for myself, like I say, just the book's always out there. I'm finishing up a second book, so hopefully that should be done here relatively
Well,
soon.
congrats.
We'll see what it looks like. It's still a little work in progress. But and then of course launched our speakers tour in the Alberta area. So it's called Ignite and Inspire. We're going to be launching that and having our first tour date. It'll be either the fall. We haven't nailed down a venue quite yet, but as soon as we get that figured out, I'll let you guys know where it's going to start and how it's going to what's going to look like.
Maybe
And
you can
as
live stream it for us over here,
Yeah,
Gary.
you know what? You know what? There's lots of options, so we're gonna definitely explore
Yeah,
something. So it'll be really fun.
brilliant.
Um, as well as thank you very much for signing into this every couple of weeks, guys. I love this part of it. This is one of my favorite things to do. I really, truly love this collaboration. I love doing this with Maeve. I love reaching out to people across the world and being in different countries and speaking to you guys and just being with you, which is really fantastic. And really, if you need anything else, reach out to us, send us a message, connect with us over social media at Maeve Langford, at Gary Benoit. And in the next couple of podcasts coming up, I think we're going to have a podcast on radical well-being. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of our
Yes,
next
we're
ones.
going to
So,
break it
so
down.
we're going to
Yeah,
break it down a little bit. So ultimately, you guys, it's going to be great. She's got this great program, and we're really excited to have this moving forward and our next one. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for being here. As Maeve, you're brilliant as always. Thank you very much,
you
and
too, my dear.
we'll chat soon.
And here's to a great summer.
Absolutely.
Okay.